I won an argument once. Completely won it, right? I had facts, logic, evidence, receipts, timeline, screenshots, the whole nine. Probably could have had a PowerPoint if somebody had given me like 10 more minutes and a laser pointer. But you know what happened with all this? Nothing. No peace. No relief. There were no choir of angels that descended from heaven to confirm that I had successfully defended my position or anything like that. Nobody handed me a certificate and that said, congratulations, you were technically correct while emotionally exhausted. That didn't happen. I won. And still I felt like garbage, which is one of the most annoying experiences in adulthood, I have to say. Because if being right doesn't automatically fix everything, then what are we even doing here? Right? That's where this episode starts for me, because somewhere along the way, a lot of us confuse being right with being whole. And those are not the same thing. Not even close. Being right can win the argument, but it doesn't always heal the wound. Being right can prove the point, but it doesn't always restore connection. Being right can silence the other person, but silence is not the same thing as peace. We should probably write that down somewhere, right? Maybe tattoo it on the inside of our eyelids, because humanity just keeps forgetting it, it seems like. We live in a world absolutely addicted to being right. Being right online, in politics, in religion, in relationships, in comment sections. God help us with the comment sections. The comment section is where humanity, it's like human maturity. It's where it goes to get hit with a folding chair. Everybody has evidence. Everybody has certainty. Everybody has a source, right? And half the time, the source is a guy named Patriot Eagle Truth 420, who recorded videos in his truck wearing sunglasses indoors or something. And somehow we're supposed to rebuild civilization from that? Good luck, everybody. But it's not just online. We do it in real life, too. We carry arguments around like emotional luggage. We replay them, we refine them. We think of better lines later, which is deeply unfair, because why does my brain become Shakespeare 6 hours after the conversation ended? That makes no sense to me. In the moment, I got nothing. Static, dial-up internet. Like a raccoon trapped in a vending machine or something. But later, now I'm brilliant. Now I got phrasing. I'm emotionally regulated. I'm ready for court, right? And that tells you something. Sometimes we don't want peace. We want a retrial. We want the conversation to happen again with better lighting and a more cooperative witness this time, right? But life doesn't usually work that way. Most conversations, they mostly happen once. Messy, imperfect, human, and then we walk away carrying all the things that we wish we had said. But here's the deeper problem. A lot of us are not actually trying to understand. We're trying to be vindicated. We want someone to say, you were right. You weren't crazy. You saw it correctly. You weren't making it up. And listen, I understand that deeply. Because when you've spent years doubting yourself, being right can feel like oxygen. When you spent all this time being dismissed and gaslit and ignored, mocked, minimized, or, told that you were too sensitive or something, being right can feel like survival. So I'm not making fun of that. Not really. I'm making fun of what we do with it. Because sometimes we finally get proof and then turn proof into a prison. We keep holding on to it. We keep polishing it. We keep showing it to ourselves. See, I knew it. I was right. And maybe we were. At some point, being right, it stops freeing us. And it starts feeding the very thing that hurts us. That's a hard one. Because being right feels powerful. But peace feels different. Peace doesn't need to keep presenting evidence, It doesn't need to win the comment thread. Peace doesn't need the other person to finally understand. Because peace is not the same as agreement. And that's where a lot of us, I think, get stuck, because we think we can't have peace until everybody understands what happened, until they admit, until they apologize, until they validate the whole timeline, until they stand before the emotional court of our nervous system and plead guilty on all counts. And honestly, that, speaking from experience, that would be nice. I'm not above it. If emotional justice came with paperwork and snacks, I'd attend. But sometimes, like, that moment just never comes, right? Sometimes people don't understand. Sometimes they don't want to. Sometimes they benefit from not understanding. And sometimes they're simply just operating with the emotional depth of a gas station hot dog. You can explain yourself for 3 hours, use small words, add diagrams, bring witnesses, create a documentary series, and they still will not get it. It's not because you failed either. It's because understanding requires willingness. And you cannot force willingness. That right there will save you years. You cannot force willingness. You can offer truth. You can speak clearly. You can explain your heart. But you cannot make someone receive what they're committed to rejecting. And if you keep trying, you won't become clearer. You'll become exhausted. This is where truth as information falls short, because information says, if I explain it well enough, peace will come. But then experience tells us, like, not always. Sometimes peace doesn't come from more explanation. Sometimes peace comes from finally realizing you don't have to keep explaining. That doesn't mean silence. That doesn't mean avoidance. It doesn't mean pretending it didn't matter. It means you stop believing your healing depends on someone else admitting what you already know. That's a brutal kind of freedom when you think about it, but it's freedom. Because your nervous system can't spend its whole life waiting on a jury that may never show up. At some point, you got to ask, do I want to be right? Or do I want to be free? And let's be honest, most of us want both. We want to be spiritually mature and also have the group chat confirm that we're absolutely correct, right? We want inner peace, but we also want the universe to release the footage, right? That's human. That's real. That's why it's hard. Because the ego wants victory, but the soul, it just wants release. And those two do not always agree with each other. The ego says, make them understand, but your soul's just like, you already understand. The ego says, prove it, and your soul's like, just live differently, bro. Ego says a lot of stuff like, they need to know they hurt you, and your soul's like, you need to stop abandoning yourself because they did. Because that's what you're doing. That's where the signal lives. Not in the argument. It's not in the evidence. It's not in the desperate need to make everyone see it the way you see it. The signal lives in the part of you that gets quiet when something is true. Not loud, not frantic, not performative. Quiet. And you know what I mean. That moment when something lands in your body. Not as information, but as recognition. When you hear something and your chest drops, your breathing changes, your shoulders release, and something inside you says, there it is. That's different than being convinced, because being convinced happens in the mind. Recognition happens deeper. That's why some truths don't feel exciting. They feel calming. They don't hype you up. They settle you down. They don't make you want to fight. They make you want to stop performing. That's how you know, because fear rushes and truth doesn't. Fear needs agreement, but truth can just sit quietly in the room whether anybody claps or not. It doesn't care. And that's something that I honestly wish that I had understood earlier, because I spent a lot of my life trying to win arguments that were really just symptoms of deeper misalignment. I wanted the final word, but what I needed was honesty. I wanted someone to admit that I was right, but what I needed was to stop betraying what I knew. I wanted peace to come from, like outside me, but peace kept waiting for me to come home to myself. I mean, that's rude, honestly. Just keep waiting, right? Personal growth has terrible customer service. You ask for comfort, and it sends you accountability. But it's true. Some of the most important moments in life don't arrive as victories. They arrive as quiet decisions. I'm not doing this anymore. I don't need to prove this again. I know what I know. I can let this go without pretending it didn't matter. The last one is important there. Letting go does not mean it didn't matter. It means it no longer gets to run your life. That's the difference. Because some people think peace means weakness. It doesn't. Peace is not weakness. Peace is what happens when your nervous system stops volunteering for wars your soul already left. And if that sounds dramatic, good. Some of us need drama to pay attention sometimes. I include myself in that. I have ignored gentle wisdom many times. Sometimes life had to send the message with a chair. But eventually the lesson gets through, right? Being right is not the destination. Being honest is. Being aligned is. Being able to look at yourself and say, I did not abandon what I knew just to win approval. That's peace. And peace may not trend. It may not get likes. It may not destroy your opponent in a debate clip with dramatic subtitles and bass drops or anything like that, but peace lets you sleep. And honestly, at this age of my life, sleep is starting to outrank victory. Let me tell you, I love my sleep. And if my children ever hear this, or maybe somebody else's child, or just somebody sitting in their car replaying an argument from, the 9th time today or something, don't build your life around proving yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. Speak clearly. Tell the truth. Own your part. Apologize when you should. Repair when you can, and just don't confuse endless explanation with love, though. And don't confuse winning with healing. If your body's still tight after the argument's over, pay attention to that. If your soul feels smaller after proving your point, pay attention. If being right cost you your peace, ask whether the victory was worth it. Because truth is not just something you defend, it's something that you live. And when you live it, you don't have to keep dragging everyone into court. And if this episode reminded you of anything, I hope it reminded you that being right and being free are not the same thing. One wins the room and the other gives you yourself back. So that being said, I'm going to go prepare a flawless argument in my head for a conversation that'll never happen.